in the seam and add the wood chunks to the charcoal. Cooking time is 1 to 1.5 hours. Let's check the apples. Check for doneness, use the Charmin test. Squeeze the apples on the side. They should feel squeezably soft. These look absolutely luscious. Fire roasted pepper salad, vegetable paella, wood-grilled portobello mushroom burgers, and smoke-roasted apple. It's a vegetarian barbecue even a die-hard carnivore will love. See you next time. Why has grilling become so popular? The tools have become much more sophisticated. Americans travel more than ever before, and we experience these incredible grilled dishes. We want to come home and prepare these dishes at home. People want to entertain at home, bring people to their backyards, and that's given rise to the outdoor kitchen, these amazing setups for grilling, certainly not like the grilling setup when I was growing up. Balinese roast pork with grilled beans and golden rice. Pit roasted pork in the style of the Yucatan. This one explodes with flavor. And a South Carolina pulled pork with mustard sauce. This is what barbecue is all about. It's a pitmaster's dream come true. Pork shoulder roasted to smoky perfection. I'm Stephen Reichlin, and from the beautiful Tubac Golf Resort near Tucson, Arizona, it's time to fire up the smoker. For a lot of pitmasters, this is the ultimate cut. In the American South, barbecue means just one thing: pork shoulder smoke roasted to fork tender perfection. But pitmasters all over the world love this crusty, well-marbled cut of meat. And today I'm going to show you how they cook pork shoulder in the Carolinas, in the Yucatan, and even Balinese style. No ifs, ands, or pork butts about it. In North Carolina, the meat is shredded and mixed with a thin vinegar sauce. In South Carolina, the meat is either shredded or thinly sliced and mixed with a mustard sauce. First, the Carolina version. And as you might imagine, it all begins with a rub. Start with powdered mustard, salt, pepper, that's black pepper, white pepper, sweet paprika, garlic powder, onion powder, and cayenne pepper. And don't worry about writing all this down, folks. The recipe is on our website. Mix the ingredients for the rub with your fingertips. That way you can break up any lumps in the powdered mustard. Now, sprinkle the pork shoulder with the mustard rub and rub it into the meat. Now, several options for smokers. This is a classic upright water smoker, affectionately nicknamed the Bullet. There's charcoal and wood chunks at the bottom, a drip pan in the center, and we'll simply place the pork shoulder on the top grate and close the lid. Now, there's a little trap door on one side of the smoker, and through it, we'll just add a couple of soaked hickory chunks. Then close this little trapdoor. Okay, the next step is to make the mop sauce. Starts with distilled white vinegar, Dijon style or ballpark style mustard, salt, black pepper, and water. The mop sauce is applied to the pork during cooking to keep it moist and add an extra layer of flavor. It's called a mop sauce because it's applied with one of these. If you visit a busy barbecue joint in the Carolinas, they actually use a clean floor mop to swab a couple dozen pork shoulders. I've got a couple of pork shoulders smoking right now, and this one is about halfway through the process. It's been in the smoker for 3 hours. Mop the pork shoulder about every hour. Now, this is a smoker that says you mean business. It's called an offset horizontal barrel smoker. This is the firebox, and you fill it with charcoal for heat and big hickory log for the wood smoke. And the beauty of this device is it will enable you to smoke pork shoulders low and slow, about 250 degrees for 6 hours. The way you tell what a cooked pork shoulder looks like will be tender enough to pull apart with your fingers. You can always use an instant read meat thermometer, and you want to cook the pork to about 190 degrees. So, bingo, we're in business. Let me pull these pork shoulders over. Oh man, this is barbecue paradise. Here is our finished pork shoulder. Traditional way of serving the pork is actually pulled into shreds with your fingers. Do you see this? This is called the smoke ring. It's a chemical reaction that takes place when you expose meat to smoke in a low temperature cooking environment. And this is the red badge of honor among pitmasters. It shows that you've nailed the pork. Now, simply tear the pork into shreds, and look how tender and juicy this is. If I squeeze it, it almost squirts. So let me show you how to put it together. You take a hamburger bun and you fill it with our pulled pork. And then a spoonful of Carolina mustard sauce. The recipe's on our website. And a couple of sliced dill pickles. Now that's a sandwich you can shoulder up to. You have the smoky pork, the sour pickle, the tangy mustard sauce. This is what barbecue is all about. When I visited Bali for the first time, I wanted to see a traditional babi guling, a Balinese spit-roasted pork. And a pit master took me up on it. He had me wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning. We went to a farm. We selected the pig. And then as a great honor for this American journalist, he put the knife in my hand and let me do the deed. In a country obsessed by barbecue, babi guling is a national treasure. This spit-roasted pork from the island of Bali is enough to make any Indonesian's mouth water. The secret is a bumbu, a fiery paste made with ginger and fresh lemongrass. It's all about pork shoulder today, so let's fire up the rotisserie. Indonesia was once known as the Spice Islands, and its marinades are explosively flavorful. This one begins with shallots, chili peppers, chopped fresh ginger, finely chopped lemongrass, and this was what a whole lemongrass stalk looks like. If you squeeze it, it's got this incredible perfumed lemon flavor, but none of the acidity of a lemon. Next, garlic, ground coriander, black pepper, a little brown sugar for sweetness, coarse salt, and turmeric and puree the dry ingredients. When I saw this being made on the island of Bali, they used a giant mortar and a pestle that looked like a baseball bat. Once the dry ingredients are pureed, then add a couple of tablespoons of vegetable oil and some fresh lime juice. One of the things that makes this spice paste unique is that you fry it before applying it to the meat. So what does frying do? Well, it releases the aromatic oils in the spices and lemongrass. This is unbelievably fragrant. So once the spice paste is fried, transfer it to a bowl and let it cool. This is a boneless pork shoulder, weighs about 4 pounds, and the next thing you do is butterfly it. Using a chef's knife, come in through the side and cut it in half almost to the other edge. Then open it up like a book, and in each half make a cut this way. The idea is to maximize the amount of surface area of the meat exposed to the spice paste. Okay, so once the meat is butterflied, take half the spice paste and spread it inside the pork roast. Then fold the pork roast together, and here's how you tie it up. Take 4 pieces of butcher string. What you'll do here is come around once, then loop twice. That's a surgeon's knot, and that locks the string in place so you can tie it off. Spread the remaining bamboo on the outside of the roast. Now you can cook the roast right away, but of course it will be more flavorful if you let it marinate in the refrigerator for 4 to 6 hours or even overnight. Okay, let's take a look at the grill. Smoke is not part of the Indonesian barbecue tradition, so this is a great recipe to prepare on a gas grill. I've preheated the rotisserie burner, and it's an infrared burner. That means it uses gas-heated ceramic honeycomb as the heat source. And if you want to speed the process up, you can light the outside burners, so you cook both by the radiant heat of the rotisserie burner and by indirect grilling. Okay, for the turn spit now, always remember to put the first set of prongs in place. And then we'll skewer the pork roast, and you want to snug it down on these prongs. Then grab the second set of prongs and use them to tightly secure the roast. Tighten that up. Okay. Finally, insert the end of the spit in the rotisserie motor and the other end in the junction. And remember to place a couple of aluminum foil drip pans under the roast before you turn on the motor. Okay, cooking time will be about an hour to an hour and 15 minutes. So, a couple ways to check for doneness on the roast. I mean, first of all, you can see it's golden brown, firm to the touch, but the safe way is always to use an instant read meat thermometer, insert it to the center of the roast, but not touching that hot metal turn spit. You're looking for about 170 degrees. So, take off your babi gulik, unscrew the tines, and slide the roast off the spit. Now remember, you never want to serve a roast hot off the grill. You want to let it rest for about 10 minutes. The meat will relax. It will be much more juicy. And last of all, don't forget to remove the butcher string you used to tie up the roast. Let's slice the roast and see how we did. Look how succulent this roast is. You squeeze it and it actually oozes. The lemongrass, the ginger, it's incredibly fragrant. Roast pork with lemongrass and ginger, Indonesian yellow rice, cucumber salad, and sesame grilled beans. From the ranches of Arizona to the rice paddies of Indonesia, it's Balinese pork shoulder cooked to a turn. So I experienced my first cochinita pibil on the day of the Virgin of Guadalupe, a national religious holiday in Mexico that is celebrated with firecrackers and gunfire all around. And I had arranged to meet a master of cochinita pibil in a tiny village outside of Campeche on the western coast of the Yucatan Peninsula. The Mexican version of pulled pork is cochinita pibil. Born in the Yucatan, it's roasted in a special pit called a pib. If you're looking for a great new way to cook pork shoulder, this one explodes with flavor. Now, there are two things that make cochinita pibil unique. The first is the marinade, and it starts with an ingredient that may be new for you. It's called achiote paste, and it's made with a Caribbean seed called achiote or annatto seed. It has a kind of a fragrant, earthy flavor. Now next, some garlic cloves, which I roasted at a previous grill session. And look, if you skewer them on a toothpick or small bamboo skewer, you won't lose them through the bars of the grate. Then some onion that has been roasted the same way. Just cut each piece in half so it will puree more evenly. Then freshly ground cumin and oregano, and salt and pepper to taste. And whenever you make a marinade in a food processor, always puree the dry ingredients first. Then gradually add your liquids, freshly squeezed lime juice, freshly squeezed orange juice, and a little red wine vinegar. With the tip of a knife, poke a series of holes about 1/2 inch deep on all sides of the pork shoulder. You do this so when you add the marinade, it will penetrate into the meat. Spread half the achiote paste on the bottom and place the pork shoulder on top. Then spread the remaining achiote marinade on top of the pork. And you can just force a little marinade into each of those holes. The cochinita pibil will taste great if you marinate it for 4 hours, and even better if you marinate it overnight. Today we're cooking the cochinita pibil in a charcoal grill. And just to refresh your memory, we're using lump charcoal, light it in a chimney starter, and at the bottom you can put either a crumpled newspaper or these paraffin fire starters. It takes about 20 minutes for the coals to light. Again, the beauty of the chimney starter is that it lights uniformly. We'll set up the grill for classic indirect grilling. What the heck's that mean? Well, dump the coals out into 2 mounds at opposite sides of the grill. One here. And this handle helps you guide your charcoal. Place two aluminum foil drip pans in the center of the grill to catch the drippings from the pork. Put the grill grate in place. And now the really cool part. Remember I told you there were two things that made cochinita pibil so distinctive. The first is the marinade, and the second is the fact that it's cooked in banana leaves. The banana leaves really do impart a unique flavor of their own. Fat side of the pork shoulder ultimately wants to be up, so we'll turn it upside down now. Because I'm going to turn this over, and then if we have any extra marinade, we can just smear it on top. Pull one banana leaf over, and the second folded this way, then a banana leaf on top here, and a banana leaf on top here. And you can just sort of pin this shut with a couple of long toothpicks or bamboo skewers. Okay, so in indirect grilling, the coals, the heat source on the outside, the pork roast goes in the center. I'm not going to bother to put wood chips or chunks on the coals. This recipe is really about the flavor of the achiote marinade and the banana leaves. So finally, to finish up, the lid goes on top. And we open the vent holes for maximum air circulation. You want to cook the pork at about 350 degrees. Cooking time, 2.5 hours, and we'll take the pork up to 190 degrees. Meanwhile, let me show you the traditional salsa that you serve with cochinita pibil. The salsa is called schnipek, literally dog snout salsa, perhaps because of its fiery bite. The active ingredient is the habanero chili, which is 50 times hotter than a jalapeno. To one finely chopped fresh tomato, add as much habanero chili as you can bear, then chopped fresh cilantro, diced sweet white onion, and lime juice and fresh orange juice. You'll see me use this combination a lot. The reason is that traditionally this salsa would be made with something called naranja agria, a sour orange, and its flavor is very similar to a mixture of orange juice and lime juice. You may not be able to find sour orange in your area, but you can always find oranges and limes. Wow, and that is a hottie. Check out our pibil pork shoulder. Now, it looks done, meat is soft, but just to make sure, use an instant read meat thermometer. You're looking for 190 degrees, and we're right on the mark. That is one monster pork shoulder. And as with any roast, you want to let the pork rest for about 10 minutes before you cut into it. The meat will relax and it will be much juicier. Final preparation, corn tortillas. I'm going to lightly toast them over the fire. How's that look? And I like to serve it right in the banana leaves. Let me show you how to eat this baby. Just cut off a chunk here. And cut into thin slivers. Okay, and here's how it goes together. Tortilla, a little cochinita pibil, some schnipek salsa, and Yucatan pickled onions. The recipe's on our website. Man, This is outrageous. So, smoky Carolina-style pulled pork, sizzling Balinese babiguli on a spit, fiery cochinita pibil from the Yucatan. It's pork shoulder from around the world. See you next time. I'm in a hangar. It's pitch black, gunfire going off all around me. And in front of me, it looks like an impromptu cemetery. There are mounds of dirt. My host grabs a shovel and scrapes away the dirt in one of these graves. And in it is a metal box. And inside the metal box is a pig that's been marinated in a mixture of achiote seed, a mixture actually that's called recado rojo. Five-spice Shanghai beef short ribs served with hoisin barbecue sauce. Smoky baby back ribs with lemon brown sugar barbecue sauce. You'll nail this recipe the first time you try it. And ribs you can cook on the grill in 10 minutes with Chilean pepperoni. Ribs so quick you'll miss them if you blink. The ultimate test for the aspiring grill master is mastering the ribs, and today I'll show you 3 of the best. I'm Stephen Reichland, and from the beautiful Tubac Golf Resort in southern Arizona, it's time to fire up the grill. Travel the world's barbecue trail and you'll find ribs on every continent. For many people, ribs are the ultimate barbecue. Today, I'm going to show you ribs from China, South America, and the American barbecue belt, because every aspiring grill master should know how to nail the rib. I created the first-timer's rib for the person who has never before cooked ribs and wants an absolutely fail-proof recipe. And it's got everything that a rib should have. That is, it's got a rub, it's got a mop sauce, which helps keep the ribs moist during cooking, and it's got a barbecue sauce, all made from scratch. The rib of choice is the baby back rib, and it's cut from right next to the backbone, high on the hog, as it were. And I start with baby back ribs because they're more tender and better marbled than spare ribs. And the first step on the baby back rib is actually to remove the membrane on the inside of the rib. And this membrane, the technical name is the pleura. What you want to do is use a sharp instrument and loosen the membrane, and then grab it with a paper towel. It's a little bit slippery, and pull the membrane off the ribs. It impedes the absorption of the spice and smoke flavors. So just remove this membrane, and you'll wind up with something that looks like this. Now, the next step in making a great rib is to prepare the rub. And we make all our rubs from scratch. This is what I call a 4-4 rub, or Reichland's rub. It starts with equal parts salt, black pepper, paprika, and brown sugar. And that's really the only barbecue rub you need to know how to make. Now, to add a little more flavor, a little more complexity, onion powder, powdered mustard, and celery seed. And I recommend mixing the rub with your fingers. I think ribs are the single most iconic food in the pantheon of barbecue. I mean, for many people, ribs mean barbecue. The two of the most famous barbecue cities in America, Memphis and Kansas City, that's what their barbecue is all about. There are 2 ways to use a rub. Now, you can apply the rub as a seasoning, in which case it acts almost like a seasoned salt. Cook the ribs right away. But what I prefer to do is apply the rub, and let the ribs marinate with these spices for 2 to 4 hours. And you can see when you do this, the rub actually cures the meat. And of course, when you marinate the ribs, do so in the refrigerator. So while the ribs are marinating, let me show you how to light the fire and set up the grill. You'll notice I'm using a charcoal grill for these ribs. Now, I'm a big propane enthusiast. I own lots of gas grills, but the truth is, if you want to imbue ribs with that authentic smoke flavor, you must cook on charcoal. Charcoal in question here is natural lump charcoal, and I'm using a device called a chimney starter to light the charcoal. The charcoal goes in the compartment at the top, crumpled newspaper at the bottom, and you simply light the newspaper and place the chimney on the bottom grate of the grill. So why do you use a chimney starter? Well, first of all, it eliminates the need for using petroleum-based lighter fluids, which some people feel impart an unpleasant taste to the food. The other reason is that this vertical shape funnels the heat upwards so that the coals light uniformly. Will take about 20 to 30 minutes, and you'll see that all the coals will be uniformly lit. So while the charcoal is lighting, let me show you how to soak the wood chips for smoking. Spice may give ribs their personality, but smoke is the soul of true barbecue. To generate smoke, use a hardwood chip. These are apple chips, and soak the chips in cold water to cover for about a half an hour. The idea here is when you put the chips on the fire, you want them to smolder, not burn. Okay, back to our ribs. So how do you cook a large number of ribs in a small grilling surface? Well, you use a device called a rib rack. And the rib rack enables you to cook the ribs in an upright vertical position, fat side or spine side up. That way, as the fat melts, it will baste the meat. Now let me show you how to set up the grill for indirect grilling. Now it's been about 20 minutes. You can see the coals in the chimney are uniformly lit. Each basket will hold half the coals, and this helps define your indirect grilling setup. The chimney will be hot, so be sure and wear heat-proof gloves. You may have wondered what this gizmo is for on the chimney starter. It's actually to help you pour the coals. So you pour a few coals in one side and a few coals on the other side. And when you put the chimney down, remember it's hot, so never put it down on a deck. Now the last step here is to place a drip pan in the center between the mounds of coals. Drip pan will catch the dripping fat from the ribs and also, again, help you define your indirect grilling space. Put on the grill grate. Place the ribs in the rack in the center. And this is called indirect grilling because the fire is on either side of the ribs, not directly below it. And add a handful of wood chips to each mound of coals. Finally, place the lid on the grill, and you want to position it in such a way that the vent holes are between the mounds of fire so the smoke is drawn evenly over the ribs. To increase the heat, simply open the vent holes, more oxygen, hotter fire. To reduce the heat, simply close the vent holes, cooler fire. I'm actually cooking these ribs about 350 degrees. It's a hotter temperature than traditional barbecue. The reason is this, baby back ribs are very well marbled, and that high heat will sizzle the fat and give you kind of a crisp consistency. You'll also get to eat your ribs a lot quicker. And we're not done yet. I have to show you how to make the mop sauce. The mop sauce is one of the best kept secrets of professional pit masters, and it differs from a barbecue sauce in that it is neither sweet nor thick. This one contains salted butter, apple cider, and a little of your favorite bourbon. Simply bring these ingredients to a boil And the reason it's called a mop sauce is that you apply it to the ribs with this, a barbecue mop. Okay, now you never want to put a mop sauce on a raw rib, but these have been smoke roasting for about 45 minutes. And simply dip the mop in the mop sauce, mop it. And the mop sauce serves three purposes. First of all, it helps keep the meat moist. Second of all, it adds an extra layer of butter, bourbon, and apple cider flavor. And finally, it gives you something really cool looking to do while your ribs cook. Well, it's been about an hour and 15 minutes, and these ribs are smoke roasted to perfection. Now, how do you know they're done? Take a look. You can see the meat has shrunk back from the end of the bone by about 1/4 of an inch. It's almost like a pop-up thermometer in a turkey. And what's the one thing that's been conspicuously absent from this recipe? Barbecue sauce. Because I believe the ribs should be smoke roasted and tasty enough that they don't need barbecue sauce. If you want to apply the sauce, put it on at the end. What you can do is just sort of lift the rib out of the rack and place it directly over the fire and brush the sauce on right on at the end. It's almost like a lacquering process. This is a lemon brown sugar barbecue sauce, and you'll find the recipe on our website. So just brush the rib with sauce. So let's see how we did. Take one rib up here. I want to show you one way you recognize a perfect rib is that you can pull it apart with your fingers. And I want you to notice it does not fall off the bone, okay? Fall off the bone tender is a fallacy in the world of rib making. Ribs that fall off the bone have been boiled, and that is heresy in my barbecue religion. This rib is tender. If you look, come up close here. Do you see that little subcutaneous layer of pink right here? That's called the smoke ring, and that means you have nailed it. Let's take a taste. First timer's ribs, because you'll remember the first time the rest of your life. One of my favorite dishes growing up was Chinese-style barbecued spare ribs. And every Sunday night, my dad would go pick up Chinese carryout, and we would always attack the ribs. The 5-spice short ribs are inspired by the original Chinese recipe. Here's a rib for people who don't eat pork. It's made with one of the most flavorful and fashionable ribs, the beef short rib, cut from the side of the steer. The ribs are flavored with Chinese 5-spice powder and served with a hoisin barbecue sauce. First, let me show you how to fire up the smoker. Now, 55-gallon steel drums are used throughout the world of barbecue. This is the only one I know that operates in the upright position. It has a wire ring at the bottom that allows you to arrange the charcoal in a ring around the periphery of the smoker. Here's a cool tool that will make you the envy of the neighborhood. It's an industrial strength blowtorch, and you use it for lighting the charcoal. Of course, you can also light the charcoal on a conventional chimney starter. First step is to score the meaty part of the ribs. And you do that simply by drawing the knife along the top in a crisscross pattern, as you see here. And what scoring does is it fosters the absorption of the spice flavor and also tenderizes the meat. And now the rub. The rub starts with Chinese 5-spice powder, which is a mixture of star anise, fennel, cloves, cinnamon, and white pepper. To this add salt, granulated sugar, and white pepper. I like to mix the rub with my fingers to break up any lumps in the spices. Now, sprinkle the rub on the top of each rib and rub it into the meat. And again, you can cook the ribs right away, but they'll have even more flavor if you let the ribs marinate with the rub in the refrigerator for a couple of hours. Okay, let's put them on the grill. So you can see the charcoal is lit, and it's the charcoal that provides the heat, but it's the wood chunks that provide the smoke flavor. These are chunks of cherry wood, and I've soaked them in water for about an hour so that they smolder and smoke rather than catch fire. Okay, and the last step, position the grate in the top of the smoker. Then simply arrange the short ribs on the grate over the drip pan. And when you arrange the ribs on the grate, place them in the center, away from the heat. You don't want to smoke directly over the fire. On goes the lid. And the way you control the heat is simply by putting one of these little metal caps in one of the 3 holes that are drilled in the bottom of the smoker. Remember the old principle, more oxygen, hotter fire, less oxygen, cooler fire. That's how you control the heat. We want to cook these ribs at about 250 degrees for about 2.5 hours. Like a traditional American barbecue sauce, this Shanghai sauce is sweet and salty, but there's no mistaking its Chinese origins. It starts with a condiment called hoisin sauce, which is made with soybean sugar and 5 spice powder. And hoisin sauce is available at any major supermarket. Next add, and here's what you can do, liquid ingredients. This is rice wine or sherry, and soy sauce, and rice vinegar, and you can put them in the bowl with the hoisin sauce. Next add sugar, and a little ketchup, and that triumvirate of Chinese seasonings, ginger, scallion, and garlic. And the sauce gets a quick sizzle on a burner. Just simmer it for about 10 minutes. When the ribs are almost done, and you can see here how beautiful they look. The meat has shrunk back from the bones. That's our test for doneness. So when you've got about 15 minutes to go, just baste each rib with some of this Shanghai barbecue sauce. Now the sauce has to go on at the end. If you put it on at the beginning, the sugar and the sauce will burn before the meat is cooked. And once these guys are sauced, then cover the smoker and cook the ribs for another 15 minutes. So here are the finished 5-spice ribs, and I'll just put a little more Shanghai barbecue sauce over each one. They smell absolutely outrageous. And to finish the ribs, just sprinkle with a little finely chopped scallion green. And let me see how we did here. Exquisite. The country-style rib is actually a funny-shaped pork chop, and it has the advantage of being the one rib that you can cook quickly using the direct method and get great results. Many ribs take a couple of hours to cook. Some take half a day. Well, what if I told you there was a rib you could cook from start to finish in 15 minutes when you come home from work on a busy weeknight? Well, there is, and it's called the country-style rib. And I'm going to show you how they prepare it down in Chile. But before I get to the rib, let's talk about the grill. Now, 70% of you most likely own gas grills. And just as a reminder, a couple of safety points when lighting a gas grill. First of all, always start with the grill lid open. Second, turn the burner on and then click the ignition. And third, very important, hold your hand over the grill for a few seconds to make sure the burner is actually lit. I'm going to close the lid here, preheat the grill to screaming hot. We're going to direct grill these country-style ribs. So first, the condiment. Down here in Tubac, Arizona, where we're taping the show, this would be called a salsa. Chileans call it pebre, and it begins with 1 finely chopped sweet onion. Then we'll add finely diced green bell pepper, chopped fresh cilantro, chopped fresh tomato, finely chopped jalapeno chili, and finely chopped garlic. Give the ingredients a toss to mix, and then add the flavorings: red wine vinegar, extra virgin olive oil, coarse salt, kosher C, and cracked black peppercorns. Simply mix these ingredients together. And that's all there is to making the pebre. So start by brushing each of the country-style ribs with extra virgin olive oil. Then we'll season with coarse salt. The reason I like coarse salt is that the crystals dissolve more slowly. So you get little salty bursts of flavor when you bite into the meat. And finally, cracked black peppercorns. Okay, let's get ready for grilling. So the grill is what I call screaming hot. How do we know? We use the Mississippi test. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, ouch, that is a hot grill. Remember, keep it clean using our monster grill brush, and keep it lubricated. Time to put on the chops. And we'll start laying the chops on the grill slightly on the diagonal so that we can create a crosshatch of grill marks. So here's how you grill these country-style ribs. It's about 2 minutes in one direction. Then we'll give each country-style rib a quarter turn to lay on that crosshatch of grill marks. So this is interesting. You always wonder, well, how do I know when it's time to turn my country-style rib? You can see little pearls of blood beating up on top of the chop, and that is a sure sign that it is time to turn the chop. So to test for doneness, there are 2 methods. I like the poke test. We want these guys to be medium, pretty firm with just a little yield to it. Of course, if you want to be scientific about it, you can use an instant read meat thermometer, but don't insert it this way through the country-style rib. Insert it through the end. Temperature you're looking for about 160 degrees. So once the country-style ribs are done, we'll just pull the ribs off. And there you have it. Ribs so quick, you'll miss them if you blink. So wherever you live, whatever you grill on, there's a rib to make you look like a pro. See you next time. Ribs are one of the most popular foods in the world, not just in North America. And as you travel Planet Barbecue, you'll find beef ribs in Argentina. You'll find lamb ribs in New Zealand and Australia. You'll find what I call dinosaur bones that are giant beef ribs down in Texas. Baby back ribs, true baby backs, which weigh less than a pound, come from Denmark. Ribs are truly eaten all over the world. Drunken sailors. Oysters sizzled on the grill. Grilled shrimp cocktail. If you want shrimp cocktail with real flavor, serve it hot off the grill. Moreton Bay bugs, grilled with ginger mint butter. Nothing says luxury like lobster. From the ocean to the fire, it's shellfish on the grill. I'm Stephen Reichland from the beautiful Tubac Golf Resort in southern Arizona. It's time to grill. Shellfish dwell in water, but there's nothing for bringing out their briny succulence like live fire. Grill masters from California to Australia back me up on this. Today, I'm going to show you how to grill oysters, shrimp, and lobster. First up, grilled shrimp cocktail. To my mind, grilling is the best way there is to cook shrimp. Think about Australian shrimp on the barbie. Why is it so good? Well, there's something about the high, dry heat of a grill that brings out a shrimp's sweetness. If you think about it, boiling, like when you boil shrimp to make a shrimp cocktail, is about the worst way to cook shrimp because boiling water takes flavor away rather than adds it. Place the shrimp in a mixing bowl and add finely chopped garlic, finely chopped fresh tarragon, and finely grated lemon zest. Next, add the juice of a fresh lemon and squeeze it between your fingers to catch any seeds. Add coarse sea salt and cracked black peppercorns and extra virgin olive oil. And toss the shrimp well to coat on all sides. You can grill the shrimp right away, but they'll be even more flavorful if you let them marinate in the refrigerator for 1 hour. Now, traditional way to grill shrimp was on a slender bamboo skewer, like this. Problem is, when you're grilling the shrimp, they flop over in different directions. So instead, use a flat bamboo skewer, which will keep the shrimp from slipping. Instead of commercial cocktail sauce, a freshly made salsa. While the shrimp are marinating, let me show you how to make it. To 1 finely chopped fresh tomato, add sweet onion, diced cucumber, capers, chopped Kalamata olives, chopped fresh garlic, and more fresh tarragon. Season with salt and cracked black peppercorns and fresh lemon juice and extra virgin olive oil. And now the grill. It's a ceramic Kamado cooker. I've loaded it with charcoal. we clean the grill grate with a stiff wire brush and oil it with a cloth grill oiler or folded paper towel dipped in oil. To keep the skewer ends from burning, I'm using a stainless steel grill shield. Place it on one side of the grill. If you don't have a grill shield, use a piece of folded aluminum foil. Last of all, position the shrimp kebabs directly over the fire. Once the shrimp are browned on the bottom, turn them over. The cooking time is quick. A minute or two per side will do it. To tell when the shrimp are done, give them a poke. They should feel firm to the touch and a beautiful golden brown. So let me show you how to put this together. Spoon the Mediterranean salsa into martini glasses. Stand the shrimp kebabs upright in the glass. If you want shrimp cocktail with real flavor, serve it hot off the grill. The preparation was pretty simple. The pit master had built a beautiful bed of wood embers. And the oysters were shucked, and each one got a spoonful of barbecue sauce and a spoonful of garlic parsley butter. Then they were cooked on the grill just long enough to simmer the bivalve in the juices in the shell. And the combination of the gently warmed oyster, the barbecue sauce, the wood smoke, they just conspired to make these some of the best oysters I had ever tasted. Barbecue means different things in different regions. In Tomales Bay, California, for example, it means just one thing: oysters sizzled on the grill. These drunken sailors deliver a quadruple blast of flavor. First from the chipotle barbecue sauce, then Asiago cheese, then cilantro, and finally from tequila. And it all begins with the oysters. These oysters are from California, but use whatever oysters are freshest in your area. Shuck them, leaving the oyster in the bottom shell. This is a chipotle barbecue sauce. The recipe will be on our website. Place a spoonful of sauce in each oyster shell. Next, sprinkle a pinch of Asiago cheese on each oyster. Asiago is a cow's milk grating cheese from Italy with a sharp, tangy flavor. Next, place a fresh cilantro leaf in each oyster. Notice I have the oysters over a pan of ice, always important when you're working outdoors. Finally, get the sailors drunk by sprinkling on a few drops of tequila. I've preheated the grill screaming hot. Simply lift the tray with the oysters and place it on the grill grate. Cooking time is about 3 to 5 minutes. You want to cook the oysters just until the juices start bubbling, the oysters firm up, and the cheese starts to melt. You can close the grill for a minute or two so the cheese melts and the oysters cook through. So where did I first taste grilled oysters? Well, I was on my way to my cousin Martha's wedding. She was getting married in Salinas, California. And I saw a sign on the side of the road that said, "Barbecue today." Well, doing what I do for a living, I had to stop. And lo and behold, the restaurant was serving oysters grilled in the half shell. You can see the oysters are bubbling and brown. That's just how they should look. So take the oysters off. Remember, each will cook at a slightly different rate. So as soon as they're done and the oyster is firm, take them off the rack. The whole key here is to cook the oysters just until done, but not so much that they overcook. And there are always a couple that take longer to cook than the rest. Drunken sailors, hot off the grill. It's a great new way to try oysters. Sesame grilled beans, cucumber salad, barbecued onions,